2. Our second segment, we will start with Malachi here. And okay, Malachi, how do you... wow, voice is cracking here. How do you talk? See, we're talking about the childhood trauma. It's all coming back.
Going through puberty all over again.
I'm trying to.
For the 50th time.
For the fifth, ooh. How do you design or choose a solo RPG that suits your playstyle?
Well, I think the biggest thing is knowing what kind of setting you want to play in and picking a system that's appropriate for that. And then making sure you have an oracle that will work with it. And they're pretty much...
You're going to have to explain oracle since you have to... guess that people don't know what that means.
Basically, an oracle is this. You ask a question, a yes or no question. You then roll a die.
It's a magic 8-ball.
In a way, yes. You'll get yes, yes and, no, or no, no and, yes, or yes but, not yes and. Yes but, yes, no, and no end, I think.
Try again later.
No, actually, that's not one of the options. Sorry. I mean, you could possibly use a magic 8-ball for this. That'd be an interesting idea. Yeah, you're going to... And that, I think, is all you really need. And like, if I'm going to do, like, say, your typical fantasy game, I'm probably going to take, like, a D&D clone. And if I don't have... not make it a full party, I might throw in the rules for Scarlet Heroes, where it's, you can play with one character. Okay,
since you're the one that's probably the most pro on this, although I debate that Cody's pretty pro on this as well. Where did it go? What advice do you have for beginners looking to create their own solo RPG experience?
I'd say your best bet if you want to do fantasy would be to pick up Scarlet Heroes. It has an oracle in the back. It has a whole bunch of rules for hex crawling, randomly generating everything. It's got tables. You get full set of rules, monsters, everything. And it's pretty much a D&D clone. And I'm pretty sure it's not overly priced on either drive-thru or Amazon. Amazon has print on demand. I'm pretty sure it's around about $30 maybe. So I think that would be your best bet.
Okay. Let's bounce on up to Bear. Bear, sir, how do you design or choose? Do I even need to ask this question? Okay, how do you design or choose a solo RPG that suits your play style? All right, Cody.
That's fair.
Well, so tell us how is that ChatGPT game going? How does that suit your play style?
Well, again, it's not playing. I'm not playing anything. I'm writing a collaborative novel with an artificial intelligence. That's all I'm doing. But no offense, Cody. This is way more fun than when I played John Prester in your game. Not because of you, but you know why. People actually respect him here. It's kind of cool. And he hasn't had to go, fuck, once. It's quite nice.
Well, that kind of ruins the character, though, if you start.
No, don't worry. There'll be a moment coming where I'll throw it in. It'll happen. No, I think if you're going to choose and you're experienced, then you already know. If you're new, Malachi's suggestions are good. I'd just say grab the old first edition D&D random dungeon generator, head off to the races and see how it plays out for you. And then if you like that, go find one of these oracles.
You know, another option to the D&D dungeon generator, because I think it's very similar to that, is 4 Against Darkness.
Yeah.
Don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's fantastic.
It's a very simplistic. You just draw. It's a quick mapper, and then you roll to find out if something is there, and then you either beat it or don't beat it. And I have lost a lot of characters in that game.
Fair enough.
I mean, even the 5e DMG has a random dungeon generator in the back.
Okay.
Any more follow-up?
Well, considering you don't play, let's see. Oh, nope, because you'd have to share an example.
Use that big Air Force.
Yeah,
brand.
all of these here are for people who have at least done it.
Now, I would like to point out for the viewing audience at home, he clearly knew when he invited me. So it's on him that he doesn't have questions for people who don't solo role play. But that's okay.
No, I have questions for people who have a negative view of it, but not for people who don't.
I don't have a negative
I
view of it. Look,
I know.
I could use the expression I used once before, which is it's mental masturbation. It's lovely. Have a grand old time. I like to play with myself too, but it's not. I don't want to be negative about it because it's not a negative thing. It's not hurting anyone. You're not causing yourself any damage. In fact, for some people, it might be downright therapeutic. And for the love of all that is holy, get your therapy where you can, especially when there aren't other people involved. Max, that way your therapy is going to be more your own thing and personal. But if this does something for you, if role playing, solo gaming, I will join you on that terminology, is something that floats your boat, blows your hair back, blows your skirt up, whatever it is, you do you, man. Have a good time.
In that regard, I might even debate that I'm probably more positive about it than you are, all told. Because I like it.
It was really positive.
Yeah.
Wow, you're mean.
I know. I am. I have
a follow-up question
I have
for
to
you.
hold
Why are you
somebody
so
down.
mean?
All right, Cody. How do you design or choose a solo RPG that suits your playstyle?
Well, I don't do it a whole lot, but like I said, already pointed this out. I think something like this would be more my style because it's giving me stuff like a game master would to interact with, but at the same time, it's giving me enough freedom to use my imagination. I think a more refined version of something like that, where it's kind of like a choose your own adventure book, but it's like a big sandbox, so I can go anywhere and do anything, but with better rules. That to be honest, that game is pretty simplistic. And
is it because of its age?
Yeah, but it also just has some limitations, and I think it could be improved upon. I'm not the one to do it, but I feel like there's some things like that. This to me was like the penultimate of what like an adventure book could be in like a role-playing game. It kind of had, in fact, I think when I first bought this game, it said something. I don't think it's here anymore, but I remember buying this and it had like a little plastic thing around it and it said solo role-playing adventure on the cover. And it really is. It's the closest I've seen what I think I'd want from a solo role-playing game. I'd want something like kind of somewhere in between that, making a character, going where I want, doing what I want, having all these adventures and stuff, but at the same time having a lot of freedom and having rules like a role-playing game and making choices like a role-playing game. And this is really close to that. And that's what I'd want. Just doing like oracles and stuff is interesting and cool. I haven't experimented enough with that to know if that's like for me, but I could definitely see that like getting some people's rocks off, like especially writers and stuff. Like I think some people could definitely get into that.
Anything that can break writer's block, it should be a tool that's considered.
Yeah, and I could definitely see like, my niece, for example, she's always coming up with stuff like that. She'll be there like telling me, Uncle Cody, and she's telling me about all these. She's like, what if this and that? And like telling me about this story she wrote and stuff. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds awesome. She's just making this shit up on the fly. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to be a great game master someday.
Yeah.
So I think there's something there. I would like to play around with it some more. But I think there's definitely some concepts there that I don't quite understand yet, but for me personally, growing up with this kind of stuff, I'd want something like this a little bit more refined, with actual like role players in mind, as opposed to this was marketed towards like, preteens or teenagers or whatever, or kids even. And it's not really designed with gamers in mind. I would like something like that designed with gamers in mind, and a little bit more complex and a little bit more options and things you can do and expansions upon it and things like that. I think something like that would be what I would design if I was.
Well, that's perfect, because that actually kind of leads into the follow-up question that I had for you, which is how do you ensure that solo RPGs remain challenging and rewarding over time?
Right. So, now if you were to design something like that, obviously the limitations were if you played through it once and you spent, of course, this has a lot of options, but you spend hundreds of hours with that. You've done everything. What's going to happen, right? So that's kind of a problem. So you would have to have some kind of almost like endless expansions to that, where it's like, okay, you already did this, where here's like a new thing you can do, right? Like it's just like you would have to have like some expansions upon that. Other ways, like if you're just doing regular solo role playing today, I think you could definitely, I don't think it would be any challenge for anybody that has any degree of creativity to come up with new challenges for themselves. It's like, okay, I did like the traditional fantasy world. Now I'm going to play Traveler, solo. And I have like, okay,
Sudsy, I think, was saying in the Rumble chat that he does Traveler solo.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. I remember back in the day actually playing Space Master solo when I was a kid, because nobody would play. My buddy basically bought Space Master and was like, I don't understand this game. You're good at rules. Figure this out. I was like, okay. I took it home, and it took me, a week of reading that damn thing to figure it out. I think I figured it out, but it really fascinated me, rules wise, how to play it. Now I brought it back to him. I was like, okay, I got this. I'll run this game for you. And he's like, this is way too complicated. Of course, we're like 10 years old. I'm like, okay, well, but I started playing like Space Master by myself, and I rolled up like a random system using the GURPS space book. And, I was like, okay, what would be on this planet? I started drawing up all these planets and like the aliens that encountered them and like all this stuff, and like I had like different members of the crew, like you would have like in Star Trek or something. So it was kind of the same thing. You could definitely have different variations, different genres, different characters, different settings. Your imagination can go really crazy. And I think that could inspire some really cool creativity to go through those exercises.
Okay. All right. And I started with a Malachi. Yeah, I think I'm going to read super chats, go on to the next one. Is there anything that you guys want to? I do kind of a question for Bear, but I know it can come up later. That's the reason why I don't want to address it now. So Malachi has stepped away for a second here. Anything that you guys want to address with each other? Cody, in 30 seconds to a minute, give Bear a pitch as to why he should try a solo RPG.
I really wouldn't.
I
don't think it's something worth pitching to somebody. Either you're like,
fair enough.
To me personally, I think it's something that you're like either interested in doing or you're not. Right.
That's fair. It's kind of like group RPGs, right? There's some people who still to this day put like, oh God, you guys are those weirdos who get around and start talking funny and so forth, aren't you? No, I want nothing to do with that. So I get it why somebody might not want to.
Maybe. But at the same time, I think like that's the core of what I've already said this. That's the core to me of what a role-playing game is playing in a group setting. Like that's to me, like one of the main aspects of playing a role-playing game. I think I've already said
I literally work with some people who will say they are video gamers, but they would not sit around a table and do role-playing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've encountered lots of those people that just do not like that social aspect of role-playing, or it's either they just don't like people. I already said this. They don't like people. They have social anxiety, or they just don't like what those people are doing. They see like a role-playing session. And again, everybody's role-playing session is going to be different. They see people like talking in character and talking in funny voices and doing all this shit. They're just like, nah, it's not for me. Right. But I always tell those kind of people, you need to find the group that works for you then. Like not every role-playing game group's the same. Right. And the way I do it, the way I run a game, I'm not going to change the way I run a game or how I play in a game, but maybe that's not right for you. But there are other people that are right for you. You can find the people that play the game that you want to play. Right.
Bear, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh. I turned off the wrong thing.
That's fine. Nobody's ever done that before. But Bear, hey, there's a super chat for you, sir. A $20 super chat from Weird Guy. Thank you very much, Weird Guy. And he says, let's put it on the screen there. Bear, this is Simple Oracle. Asks, does this NPC insert action here, like want to help me, want to kill me, desire my gold, etc., then roll a D4. 1, absolutely not. 2, not really. 3, a little bit. And 4, hell yeah! But while Bear is not impressed, for the folks out there, I'm impressed on the $20 super chat, so thank you very much for that. But as far as folks who may not even know what solo RPGing is or what an oracle was, even after Malachi kind of explained it, boom, there's a very, very quick example of what an oracle is. Now they go deeper than that, but you get the concept of it. So I think that was a really good super chat for folks out there who might not understand.
It does not blow my hair back. It does not blow my skirt up. It does not float my boat, but it does sound practical, pragmatic even. See, I can be nice.
All right, let's hit some of the other anything you guys wanted to say to each other in terms of choosing a solo RPG? Okay. Then I'll hit the super chat. And Max is mean because his Megatron is gone. I have a partial Megatron. If you guys want during segment 5, I'll pull out the box and show you. I have a partial Megatron. What it was, my brother was really young. I don't blame him. And I had just joined the Air Force, and my stepdad always let him get into my shit. And, you know, when you're a young kid, you don't really pay attention to whether you're breaking or losing something. You just mix all the stuff up and whatever. So, you know, I don't get me wrong, I was really disappointed when I found out. But, you know, I found out in 2002. And that was 10 years after I was in the Air Force. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things. It's been like 30 some years now. I'm over it. But yeah, I still have the box and the partial Megatron though. I also have a Scooter GoBot. And somebody put in chat that he likes Shockwave better than Megatron. The problem with Shockwave was all plastic. Megatron still had metal in it. Bam!
Mm-hmm.
All right, was there anything else? And now you go, solo role playing is what Max did before his first girlfriend. I still do, sir, and I'm married. Wait, am I allowed to say that on YouTube? Scratch that. Somebody clip that. Don't. You people. Oh, hey, TB. Players ask you as a GM yes or no questions in a group all the time from a player-facing side. The Oracle is no different from the level of play in most games. So I think he's saying most game masters suck. That's the way I'm taking that. No, thank you. A good comment there, TB. Thank you, and I hope you have a good night, sir. All right. Going to move on to the next question here. Stop making fun of me in chat.
Please keep making fun of him in chat.
Don't listen. He's just a panelist. He's just a scrub. A panelist. Don't listen to him.
Keep doing it.
You know what? Because of that, Bear, I'm starting with you.
Okay, you're supposed to anyway. That's how your rotation works. But it's good that you can use the excuse to get there.
Nobody likes a fact checker. All right. How do you maintain
you keep going, so
no, they come here for that. At least that's what I convinced myself of. Anyway, how would you think? I'm gonna have to change the question up a little bit for you here. How would you think you maintain narrative flow and engagement in a solo RPG session based on what you've heard so far?
Schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, fractured psyche, table of random sayings. I don't know.
Well, no, that's good. So how do you think that integrating a sense of randomness, like tables or oracles or dice rolls or cards or whatever, into the narrative can keep it dynamic?
Man, I have no idea.
Honestly, here's just something that popped into my brain that might help you. So at work, we had to go through some training a couple years ago, and they pulled out those cards that are basically fallacies. And they said, okay, here's the argument, and here's your fallacy. You have to give an argument based on that fallacy, and then give an argument that removes that fallacy, but still kind of frames the argument the same way. That was actually more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Still don't know how that would work in solo gaming, but I mean, it's very, unless you're using a complete randomizer, there's no narrative. What's the narrative? The narrative is going to be flexible and changing at every moment, unless it's a pre-written adventure that has solo component to
Wouldn't you think that something like a sandbox, and by the way, I'm not trying to counter you, I'm just trying to I'm thinking like when the Basic Expert and Malachi and them were on talking about sandbox gaming, don't you think that something in their style of sandbox gaming where you go to the next hex, you roll to find out what's there, you find that there's an adventure site or whatever it's called in D&D, that's the Forbidden Lands term, and then you engage with it there is a form of narrative flow? and then how the characters interact with each other, or you come across a caravan and now you're interacting with the caravan master or something.
Again, though, I mean, based on this idea of oracles and tables and all of that sort of thing, I would say probably difficult to have any real sense of a narrative evolving outside of the one that's prepackaged into the thing. As for Cody's mic and mine, if there are any ladies watching, just turn off the cameras and let our voices take you away to slumberland. Now, back to the question at hand. I don't know for sure because I've never done it, but I think a narrative that isn't pre-created in a situation but a randomly generated one would be very difficult to have a cohesion to.
I can't argue with you, so I'm kind of done on the follow
Excellent. I'm going to go back to exploring the swamps.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, Cody, how do you maintain narrative flow and engagement in a solo RPG session?
Well,
Educate me and Bear, please.
The narrative's being made up in your head, right? So just like in a normal role-playing session, you know, the narrative is going on in your own head. Well, in this case, it's only going on in your head. It's not going on in everybody else's. So you have to create the narrative as you're going. Now, it's up to you to create that narrative. Like in a social setting, the narrative's going whether it's, hopefully, if you have a good group and a good GM, it's going whether you like it or fucking not. But in this case, you have to create the narrative in your head. Otherwise, you're just rolling dice and whacking off, essentially. So you really have to create that in your head, just like you're reading a book. You have to say, this is not just numbers and charts and oracle. This is a story going on. What is this story? What does this person look like? What is this situation? What are these people saying to each other? That's up to you to create the narrative. It's not up to the, you know what I'm saying? Like that's really...
sorry for jumping in, but so Malachi and I, we've used the term emergent storytelling. Do you think that this is even more like an exponential growth to emergent storytelling, just because you have to focus more on those numbers and the dice are more integral to that? Because I always see it as emergent storytelling is the dice tell the story. You define what your action is or what your attempted action is. The dice tell the outcome of it. The story emerges from that. It seems like that's even more prevalent here now.
I would say so to a degree, but I think still like a group is going to add more to the story, right? If you're playing in a group setting, they're going to add things you did not think of. They're going to put their own personality, their own character, and everything else into it that you did not put into your own head. But yes, it's your responsibility to create that emergent story. And it is an emergent story. If you're playing a sandbox, it can just be a bunch of random numbers and tables. It's up to the players and the game master to make the story come alive. And I've ran plenty of sandboxes where it's a sandbox and then it turns into a story off of some stupid encounter, right? Like it's just some random fucking thing that like
they want to chase down the rabbit hole for
yeah. And then that becomes the story, right? All of a sudden you got a story now. And as a game master, if you're a good game master, you're gonna, take that, you're going to hook the bait and be like, yep, I had that planned all along. Yes, sirree. And then, but I think if you're doing solo, you're doing solo play, you want to do the same thing. If you want to make a narrative, you want to make a story where it's up to you in your head to do so. Otherwise you're just rolling dice and looking at charts and stuff. And there's nothing really going on there. It's really up to you to do that. And it's only you. So it's up to you how detailed you want to get, how far you want to get. Maybe you want to like map out everything, like be like, okay, this is this NPC, and you're going to write out like every detail about this NPC. And then all of a sudden you create little random charts about this NPC, or maybe, you could get really deep in the weeds with this stuff, right?
Well, I'm going to actually ask you to get into the weeds a little bit here. So how do you integrate that randomness, dice rolls, tables, oracles, whatever, into the narrative to keep it dynamic?
I think you definitely could. Now, I haven't gone that deep into the weeds into it. So like, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, how I would do it. Like,
well, let me ask you. So I'm not putting you on the spot for something that isn't appropriate. How deep have you gone into Fabled Lands or I don't know which version you have, but
this is a different thing, right? Because it is doing a lot of the work for me already. It has.
Isn't that part of what solo role play? You're teaching me at the same time here. Isn't that part of what solo gaming, solo role playing is, though? Is that the game or the book does a lot of the effort for you?
No, I don't think so. Like, this kind of thing is a little different from what I think a lot of people think of as solo role playing. This is really a mix between like a choose your own adventure book and a solo role playing experience. Like I said, it's a very different kind of thing than I've seen before. I don't know if there's anything quite like that, to be honest with you, because it doesn't like you can go anywhere, do anything. There might not be anything to do at the end of your trail, right? Like you might go somewhere and it's just like, there's nothing there, and you just go back and do something else, and all of a sudden you encounter
like
a dragon.
The old Sierra games, north, northwest.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, So, this and like traditional solo role playing games as it's conceived today with oracles and charts and all this stuff is a little bit different. So if you're doing what people conceive to be solo role playing today, to make that dynamic, that's up to you what you want to do. Like I said, you can go real far into the weeds with it. You could draw up, you could draw up your own map, your own world. They could have completely different physics. You could, you could create your own races. You could create your own game system. You could create like every little detail about like what kind of, maybe they don't use spoons, they use sporks, and like they're made out of some weird obelisk material out of this volcano. It could be really crazy, right? I remember when I was a kid, an example of this, like I remember as a kid, like doing that kind of stuff, like I would just like get bored in school and like draw up like a world, and I'd be like, what is this world like? And who are these people and stuff? Because I was just a kid. My imagination was racing. I think it's the same kind of thing with the solo role-playing game. Like you could really go crazy with it, right? It just depends how crazy you want to go and how deep you want to go. And you could do all kinds of stuff to make that more dynamic, but that's up to you. You could add random weather. You could add, maybe there's some like crazy random weather. Maybe in this area, there's like a random magic storm that passes through here. And it opens up portals and rifts, and all of a sudden you're playing rifts, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you could get really crazy and really deep in the weeds. It just depends how much you want to push it, right? And how far you want to do. Somebody mentioned keeping it log and bookkeeping. I think that would be really important to making it more dynamic and more immersive and more interesting for yourself.
So you need to remember what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you could go as detailed or as deep in this as you wanted. You can make up more random charts or expand upon the oracle, or even just do without the oracle. And maybe you're just like making up the decisions as you go. You say yes or no, or you could do all kinds of stuff. Like I think the sky's the limits to what you could do with it, and you could get really deep and really immersive. You could write a whole freaking phone book for what you could do in your solo game, I think.
Bear's like, taking notes. Maybe you guys should try that in my game. I'm saying it for you, Bear. You don't have to. All right, Malachi. How do you? It's funny. I actually want to make this quick comment. Cody, you said you made worlds and so forth. I must have made thousands of characters. Like that was my thing. Is I just kept rolling up. I'd come home from school every day, and I would make 3 or 4 characters. And I didn't make like 59-page backstories, but they still had a couple of paragraphs of backstories. Like, ooh, I want this to be this. I want this to be that. I just made characters upon characters upon characters.
I used to be infamous for that. Like everybody would make fun of me because I used to have like notebooks of just characters, because I just loved making characters, and not like you said, not just rolling up the stats. I wanted to make like a character. Like, who is this guy? Like,
find different ways of making. For me, it's mostly second edition AD&D. But why did I pick this non-weapon proficiency instead of the one that is right for the fight? Kind of stuff. Go ahead, Bear.
Have you seen my Patreon?
Bear, you have a Patreon?
Yeah.
I know. I get like 3 emails a day of a new character that Bear's made. So, yes. I got him in the spam blocker now. I mean, what? I'm kidding, Bear. I'm kidding. All right, Malachi. Going back to the main question here, how do you maintain narrative flow and engagement in a solo RPG session?
Well, I think first off, when you're going to have your main character, I think they need to have their goals, their motivations that they're striving for. And, as you're going through the game, you have to, I look at it like a movie. You have your opening scene, and then once that scene ends, you take it to the next logical scene, and you keep progressing that way. And if you need to spark that imagination, you go to your random tables. use your yes and no's on your oracle to help, fine tune everything. Yeah, it's your. Oh my
Good?
god. Yeah, for now. If I may have to come back, I was
Okay.
going somewhere then.
Go there.
So that's fine. I'll just continue this. What techniques do you use to keep the story moving forward without the input of other players?
I think you have to have you really need to. Trying to find my words.
I know the simple answer is to say you use your oracles, your charts, your
No,
tables,
no,
but how do you integrate them?
Well, I mean, you have to be very active with the character. You have to have the character really wanting to do stuff, wanting to keep moving forward, not just, oh, here I am at the bar, I'm just going to sit and drink all day. No, that's not why you're sitting here. That's not why you're playing. You're here to adventure. You need to have that active character that's going to go forward, that's going to go adventure, who's going to do stuff. To me, that's where your narrative is coming from. That's where the emergent story is coming from, is that you're actively doing things. You're actively progressing goals. Toward goals, I mean.
So, because you are the one who's more into this, can you share a time when you had to overcome a form of writer's block or a lack of direction in a solo game and how you overcame it?
Not that I can think of. I mean, at times I have been like, okay, I don't see it as something like I do for a very long time. Maybe like an hour or two, not that, not much longer. And if I get to that point, I will say, okay, you know what? That's enough for today. I'll come back to this tomorrow because it's all centered around me, not a group. I can pick this up when I want to, or when I can get that spark of imagination that I need, that I can continue.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say, like, it's like solving problems. People will say, you walk away from a problem, you sleep on it, and you can actually figure that out how to fix it. I've had that happen to me all the time. I mean,
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, we're at the point now where do you guys have any questions or comments, concerns for each other?
No, but I did want to comment on somebody in the chat here.
Yeah, go ahead. If you tell me who it is, I'll try to put it on the screen.
Yeah, Pete Magnet was saying the one part of RPG, like the solo RPG experience, he could not get past leveling up.
I was going to approach this later, so go ahead.
I think first off, like this, everybody's got preferences, what they enjoy about a role-playing game. I've gotten past the point, like, I'm really don't give a shit if I level up or not, to be honest with you. Like, as a player, like, I don't care, but like, I understand the enjoyment of that. When I was younger, I really loved that. And I'm not saying this is a mature, immature thing. I'm just saying it's a preference.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah. And I've moved past it. I don't care. If you never level me up, I don't care. But I think there's other effective ways to do it. If you don't feel like you don't feel like you're giving fair judgment to give experience points to yourself, you could do some kind of your own kind of chart to do it, right? You could say, okay, if I complete a task, it's this much experience. If I do this, it's this much. Or you could just do like a milestone experience, which I think would probably work a little bit better.
Holy crap, you've just maybe convinced me, because I hate milestones, but I think you may have just convinced me of the one good purpose for milestones.
Yeah, I think milestone experience might be the best course of action in a solo role-playing, thing. It's like, oh, you completed a big objective or a quest or something. Okay, and you have like a set amount of like objectives. You set them out for yourself, what that should be, and then you level up. Or some games don't require level up, like
Traveler.
Traveler or basic role playing. You just make advancement rolls, and that, or Dragonbane, same thing, which is based on basic role playing. Same thing. It gives you a checklist of what to do, and you can go through that checklist. So I think it's kind of the same thing. You just need to make a checklist for yourself to give yourself that experience. Now in D&D though, it's not really that hard because it does give you guidelines if you want to do hard experience. It says, especially if you're playing old school D&D, it tells you exactly what to give experience for. It tells you gold, objectives, what have you, monsters to kill. Like, it tells you what experience you get. So I don't think it's too hard to do. And but I do think maybe I would probably do like a milestone thing and make it like a checklist for myself of what I need to do to accomplish those milestones to level up or advance.
Okay. Cody, you and I are so similar in that one, and I don't know what the cause for it is, because I know when I was younger, I wouldn't have agreed with that at all. But now, if somebody would tell me, like, hey, man, I'm running a D&D game, and I'm just saying D&D because it's simple and pretty much anybody watching probably knows it. I'm running a D&D game. You're all going to be 5th level. I hope the campaign's going to go for a couple of years, but we're not going to level up. What I've decided is that this entire area or whatever I can handle at 5th level. By the way, there are like 1,000 monsters in the Monsters Compendium, so I will never need to level you up from 5th level. I will still keep you engaged. You know, whatever it happens to be. I think there's gonna be a good story. Yada yada yada. I'd be like, cool, I'm in. Like I don't need to level up. And I think Traveler is such a good representative of that, because how do you level up in Traveler? You get more crap for your ship. You have more goodies. You have bigger gun. You know, whatever. So it's more. I hate to say reality, but it's kind of like real life. You personally might not be, getting your ninja skills higher, but if you got better armor and better sensors and a better ship, that's kind of like leveling up, right?
Yeah, my only thing with something like that would be, will there be some kind of reward for my character as we play? That's my only concern. It's like, if you're just like, I was in my first game. I forget how long it was, but never got a single point of XP, never got anything. Not for all the adventuring I did. Level 1 the whole time. It didn't sour me on the game at all, but it just kind of soured me on the DM. Yeah,
but were there other things like you're gaining, prestige or equipment? Wow, that's just weird then. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there should be some sort of growth. You get richer, you get stronger, you get whatever. It doesn't have to be numbers. It doesn't have to be the click-a-clack math rocks, which I just got a D26 and a D28 today in the mail. So I know I'm going to use those all the time, but yeah, there has to be some sort of growth. Otherwise, what is the purpose? I get that.
Yeah.
So okay. Barry, anything you want to say about that? Or are you too busy doing your solo RPG?
It's just like it's this thing where like I really like I'm happy to be here and be part of the conversation, but I just don't know what I can contribute to some of these questions, because a lot of them are based on stuff that I haven't experienced, right? And
so I'm gonna claim mistake on this part, because I seriously thought you had done it and we're just on the negative side of it. I didn't realize that you just actually hadn't done it.
I've heard a lot about it. I've had people ask me, well, will Heroic have a solo roleplay? No, Heroic will not have a solo roleplay. If you want to write a solo roleplay for Heroic, talk to me and we'll make a deal, absolutely. But it's just this thing. I roleplay for social. I roleplay to socialize. I roleplay to be with other people, to tell stories. I'm a dirty, filthy story gamer. I don't care how many pluses you have. I don't care how many feet you can move. I don't care how many hexes we covered today. I want to have fun. I want to tell the story. That's how I have fun.
How come Crafty doesn't give you crap? He gives me crap.
Because I'm not a pedant. But as I have said many, many, many times in this conversation, I do not begrudge people listening to everybody talk, seeing the conversation in the side chat. While I can firmly say it's not for me, I can see how it is for other people, and I can see how they enjoy it and what they get from it, and I approve of it. But what about, what would you do in this? Not really questions I can answer well. And you know me, I don't read the questions because I want to give organic answers. I want to give real answers. You know what I mean? I don't want to give prepackaged garbage. So keep coming to me, because you'll hit one where I'll and everything will come out. But for now, most of my answers are going to be not.
Well, I can reword questions for you as well.
Everybody in the chat has questions for me about it. Like, that works too, guys. I'm happy to help.
By the way, I want just folks that watch this and then think that they don't have to answer questions. Very few people who can get by without reading the questions beforehand. And I'm not saying that as to be an arrogant jerk. It's just based on the past of the show. Bear generally can get by with that, but other people have tried and can't. There's a reason I send the questions out to folks first. They don't get the follow-ups because I don't necessarily know what the follow-ups are, because I base it on a bunch of different factors. But the primary questions they get because I want really well thought out, studious, if you want to call it, answers so they can answer it, and what you do, how you do it, what the result was, and not just say, just do it.
Right. Now, that said, I've worked in journalism. I've been on the air. I'm a broadcaster. I'm an actor. I've taught, you know what I mean? I've been a teacher. I can speak off the cuff and I can dig into my mind, but that's a skill. You know, I'm not trying to say I'm really good at it. I'm just saying it's a skill I possess. So that's why, and I prefer an organic conversation. Always do, always will. Nothing I'm going to think about in advance isn't going to happen to my brain at the same time we're talking. That's just the way my brain works. That said, if instead I can say this, Cody has really, 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 really made some great points tonight. He clearly has an understanding of this whole thing. And I would say that he has not changed my mind about it, but deterred my "you're a fucking loser with no friends, learn how to roleplay with other people, you child" attitude that I had coming into this. So, well,
is this still mental masturbation?
It's still mental masturbation.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, everyone likes playing with themselves, so why not?
All right. Anything else you guys want to bring up about maintaining narrative flow? Otherwise, I'll read. Did I read chat? No, I think I have to. Yeah, I have to read some chat, and then we'll move on to the next segment. Okay. I cannot wait for how I address this stuff next year. Let's see. I already did that one. So Mark Markham says, you definitely need to take notes in a journal if you want to run it and keep some sort of narrative going. I think Cody kind of commented on this a little bit, if I remember correctly. Even my AI forgets NPCs and things. Wow. Okay.
Well, I would say you need to do that in a regular session too, even though I'm guilty of not doing this. Or not.
How many times
Even as a GM,
like, okay, what happened last session? We're like,
even as a GM, I'm just a disorganized guy, period. So I take notes, but I lose them a lot of times, you know, like, or I'm just very absent-minded. I'm very disorganized. So I'm really bad at that. But I do think it's a great thing to take notes, period. Whether you're playing in a normal role-playing session or a solo role-playing session, you definitely need to take notes if you want to take it seriously.
Okay. Jack McCarthy says, counterpoint to Cody. He's one of the people that will just say disagrees with me a little. Just go. Ouch. Just hit my hand in my drink. You caused that, Jack. Counterpoint to Cody. Multiple ideas are only better if the other players can actually provide good ideas. I have sat through many painfully cringe group sessions in my life.
Absolutely. I have too. I have too. I was talking about this earlier, that I think you need to find the people that work best for you. Right. And even then though, you're going to run into that problem where, you know, some people get hung up on shit that they shouldn't get hung up on. And the session drags on and you're just like, you know, but there's nothing wrong with being like, hey guys, can we get back to what we were actually doing and not get hung up on this bullshit? You know, but yeah, I mean, it's happened to me a lot. It's happened to everybody. It's just part of the quirk of playing with a bunch of people that have a bunch of different ideas and are bringing personality to the game. That's just, yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems with doing it. I agree. Absolutely. Like, I don't have any argument with that. The only counterpoint I would have to it is you need to find people that are going to work better with the flow of the group. And I think that's an important part of being a player, though. This is a totally different topic again, but being a good player is going with the flow and reading the room, right? It's all about reading the room. And if you can't read the room, that's a quality of a good player. And that's as important of a thing as it is being a good game master. It's not always on the game master. The players drive the game, if not more so than the game master.
Jesus, Cat.
So, you know, if you're playing a normal role-playing setting, it's the responsibility of the players to drive the game along, keep the game moving, and go in the same direction and not work against everybody all the fucking time, because you're not making anything fun, right? You might as well just be solo role-playing, you know, if you're doing that. So, but it does happen. It does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. It absolutely does. It sucks. But it's just one of the quirks of role playing that you have to get over. And I think people can move beyond it though. If you've been playing long enough and you can evolve as a role player and evolve in this hobby, you can learn that like that's not a good thing to do. Hey guys, we need to like not do this, right? And
I mean, let's be. I don't know how it is now because everybody has some sort of mental disorder and ADHD and everything else that they claim that they've got under the sun. But back in the day, let's be honest, most of the people, not all, but most of the people who played were the social misfits.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody in my group was a social misfit for whatever reason.
Yeah, we all were. Yeah, I mean, everybody in my group was for sure.
Some people learn how to get along with others through that. Other people remain social misfits.
Absolutely. But I mean, like for me, it helped me socially for sure. Like I was a complete introvert, did not know how to communicate. Now I know how to communicate with people, right? That helped me to some degree. Now, other things helped me, like my career and everything else, and having to step into leadership positions. But I think role-playing games are really good for that, is helping people be more social. I try to pull it out of people when I role play or when I run games. I want to see people be more social and interact and role play and interact with the group and do things. But it's up to them to do it at the same time. You still have to step up as a player to do that. And I think it's not just the responsibility of the game master, it's the responsibility of you as a player and teaching other players, being a good role model, like I said again, to do that, encourage that. So, but it does happen regardless, even with great players. I mean, it's happened even with the best players have been around. We get hung up on some stupid thing, and we go round and round and round for like an hour about some dumb thing, and then finally we're all like, "What are we doing? Like, let's."
But I want another 10% off the rope that I'm buying.
Yeah, whatever it is, but it happens, and it's just a part of role playing games. But I think people can get over it. I think it's something, yeah.
Okay.
I think
we got a few more. Unless you guys want to say anything on that, we got a couple more comments to get through here, and then on to the next segment. Okay. The thing that I cannot get past with solo RPG experience is that we already talked about this one. Sorry, I had it starred and told you I was going to get to it. Apparently twice. Mr. Max Wavon says people in this hobby are notorious for being good room readers. Sarcasm much?
Yeah.
Bear, you're muted. And you're still muted.
I muted both mics just to be safe because I don't.
Oh, you're awesome. Hey, that's. What did you want to say about Mr. Max? I mean, that's no sarcasm.
No, that's 100% sarcasm.
Or is he French?
Again, the French. Okay, you need to know something about the French. Sarcasm, not a part of their language. Oh. They tend to hate it, which means I can piss off a room full of French people real far. But anyway, yeah, I think he's being sarcastic in this case.
Okay. And next, we got two more. Per has a question for you, Bear. If you were somehow coerce, somebody took your arm, you will do this, into playing a solo game in heroic of all ones. There you go. Which of all your heroic characters would you decide to play? And play with? He said play with. And why?
Who would want to play with Lady America? I wouldn't. I honestly, there is nothing other than a large bag of money that would ever entice me to do something like this. It's just not my wheelhouse. It's not something I can't even entertain it in my head. I would be bored. And I'd be like literally going, I'm going to go write a comic. I'm going to go write some NPCs. I'm going to go write an adventure. I'm going to go do a rules expansion. This idea just does not appeal to me. But if I had to, gun to my head,
bag of money,
he'd reach up and pull the trigger.
Gyro. I mean, Gyro was my character. Was the first superhero character I ever made back in the 80s. So yeah, him.
Okay. And finally, being a solo RPG guy is like being a social outcast amongst social outcasts. But guess what?
You said it.
Double negatives become a positive. Or if you go around so far, you come back around again. So look at that. I just turned your frown upside down, buddy. Let's. Where are we here? Oh, wait, we're going to go into the next segment. So the next segment is going to be character development and role playing. But before we do that, I got to put this little thing on the screen here. And I would normally actually I can read out the charity. Just for the folks watching live stream, ignore this part, but the people in the video later, it'll be ready to go by then. I've actually closed out our charity for 2024. It will be open back up in 2025, but I have to wait until January 1st to set up, apparently. The charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national, nonpartisan. Doesn't care if you're left, right, up, down, over, under, nobody cares. It's nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the video's description for the link to where you can make your hopefully tax-deductible donation. And if you enjoy this discussion, if you think we're having fun, if you want to have some fun with us, hey, subscribe to the channel and learn when more of these videos will come out. I'll even tell you right now that it won't be the Some Rando RPG live stream. We are changing the name of it to a Game Master Insight. That's right. It was such an incredible name. I don't know if I like it, but we're going to go with it. It's Game Master Insight, and it's going to be the same general format, but it's going to change a little bit just to be a little bit more interactive with the panelists. But same basic concept here. So look forward to that. If you've seen this on video later, you might actually see a Game Master Insight video up ready for you to watch. But also make sure you subscribe to all the panelists' channels, which you can find in the description.